Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. Today, I'll be reacting to two scary storyteller channels. And the first one is Chillin' Tapes, and the video I'll be reacting to from his channel is Three Creepy True Food Delivery Horror Stories. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
On my first summer back home from freshman year of college, I picked up a part-time job delivering pizza in a town around 30 minutes away from where I lived.
Okay.
The area, in rural Georgia, is known for having places that are in the middle of nowhere, and the pizza place's whole shtick was that it delivered to even to most remote areas imaginable within the town limits.
Well, seems like a good business practice, just so you can reach customers out in the countryside. But I guess if they're in the next town over, they wouldn't deliver it because that would be way too far for their drivers to go. But anyway, let's continue on with the story and see what happens next, shall we?
I could fill books with the weird experiences that summer, from the call that came from a long abandoned warehouse to the dog that got excited about the pizza in my hand and accidentally shredded my pants with her claws. But one will always stand out in my mind as the creepiest. It was getting fairly late at night, around 10:30 p.m. So
Okay.
I was confident at the time that I would be sent on no further calls before closing at 11. However, someone barely managed to miss the cutoff time, and our clerk accepted their order since they were so close.
Oh, those people should count themselves lucky because once you hit the cutoff time, they'll be like, no, sorry, we can't do nothing else tonight. But that's the first time I ever heard a pizza delivery person say that a dog ran up on them because they were happy that the food was there and they got their pants shredded from the dog. When a food delivery person's coming, the homeowner should have made sure they were on a leash or inside the house away from the door.
I was given the address and a single box of hot dough and sent on my merry little way. The first red flag was the driveway, or rather, the lack thereof. There was a mailbox, but no actual driveway, not even gravel. It was just grass, and a barely distinguishable trodden pathway that resembled more of a service trail than it did something frequently used. I bumped along, wondering if I was even en route to the place, when I saw a slightly above average sized house come over the horizon, horribly dilapidated and completely surrounded by overgrown woods.
You see, right there, I'll be thinking, okay, this is a little awkward. I cannot believe that someone ordered food to be delivered at this place. Now, I get it, some people end up living in slightly dilapidated houses because that's all they can afford. I get it. But red flags will be going off in my head right now because I'm thinking this might be a whole waste of time riding up there because it might be a trap.
I guesstimated where the rest of the driveway led and ended up parking in a grassy patch that could have been the walkway just as easily as it could have been the front yard, headlights aimed towards the porch, as per company policy. I walked up to the door, but I believe that calling it a door is generous. It was a door frame, but the door itself was just a large slab of wood propped haphazardly against the side of the house, barely covering the entrance. This was red flag number 2. The third and fourth red flag were also on the door. This included the A4 sheet of printer paper with the words, around back scribbled in all caps, which was hanging just below the place where somebody had self-engraved the door with the title, Manson Family Ranch. Typically, I would never go around to the back of a house, especially a shady, unlit house, and especially at night. However, it was my last drop of the day, and I was ready to get it over with and be on my way home. Against my better judgment, I traipsed around to the back of the house.
I'll be like, I don't have time for this because walking around the back of the house means someone will attack you and rob you, or worse, delete you. I heard all these other food delivery horror stories, and that's usually what happens here when you walk around to somebody's property or to a back of the house that nobody don't even own.
The door back here was an actual door, but it was covered in both cobwebs and fresh spider webs. Clearly, this was a door that had not been used in some time. I found the cleanest area available and knocked. I counted to 45 and knocked again. There were no lights on in the house, and I could hear no movement from inside. I knocked and counted again, and repeated the sequence 3 more times before I was finally creeped enough to decide to return to my car. As I turned, I finally heard a voice coming from inside the house, clearly agitated, but I couldn't tell what they're saying. I tried to knock 1 more time, and as I was counting, I heard something in the woods behind me. It started out as just movement deep in the trees, but soon enough I could make out distinct running footsteps coming directly towards me through the brush. As I'm standing there, coming to terms with my impending demise, I follow the direction of the noise to the edge of the woods, which is around 15 feet away from me. In the moonlight, I could clearly see the woman who stepped out. She was relatively old, maybe in her 60s. She had long blonde gray hair, which was tangled and matted and hung down past her hips. She was in what looked to be originally a white nightgown, but at that time it was dingy and closer to a brown color. She was absolutely barefoot, and her feet were covered in dirt and what had to be blood, presumably due to the fact that she had just sprinted through the prickly woods where there was no trail to be seen.
Oh, heck no. I'll be creeped out at this point. I would be dropping the pizza and going. I mean, don't let the old age of this woman fool you. She might be crazy enough to get enough energy to attack you. If she wanted to, that is.
I never learned her name, but I still affectionately refer to her as Red Flag Number 5. She stopped short when she saw me and started to shake her head, eyes wide. I stood there, like a terrified deer in the most fucked up headlights ever, as she took a few more steps towards me, reaching out to me, finger pointed. Her voice came out way stronger than mine would have at the time when she spoke. You know how Southern people can either sound like loving grandmothers or backwoods murderers? Well, she sounded like the latter when she drawled, "Oh, no, 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 no. No, honey, no, you get on, you get. Get on out of here." I wish I could say I listened, I ran, I left, but I was so in shock at how events were playing out that my own self-preservation was put on a back burner while I tried to figure out just what in the Kentucky Fried Fuck was happening.
You don't need to figure it out. She's telling you, run. Maybe she was trying to warn you that the person in that house is dangerous, even though she might be acting crazy herself, too.
She seemed to realize that I was not moving, even if I could not make my mouth move to ask her what was happening, or even what to do with the stupid pizza in my hands. She looked at me like she could have smacked the hell out of me right then and there, and proceeded to deliver red flags 6 through 12. Darling, did you hear me? You deaf or dumb? Young girls like you come out here and then they don't get to leave. So I finally quit being the white person in a horror movie when I realized that this was not a funny little ghost story. This was 5 feet 3 inches, 116 pounds, me potentially being targeted to be robbed, or kidnapped, or worse. I dropped the dumb little pizza and started running back to my car, which I had stupidly left on and unlocked, as was usual for most of my deliveries. As I neared the car, I heard a slam from behind me, and I looked over my shoulder to see that the wooden door had been pushed over and had fallen into the porch beneath it. As I was closing the car door, an older man was limping down the front steps, waving his arms like an airplane runway attendant at me, calling me a little bitch, telling me to get out of the fucking car, now. At a loss for what to do, I called out something muttery and shaky and along the lines of pizzas out back. I floored my dad's 90s Lexus and somehow managed to avoid trees on the odd trail back to the main road, which was still 12 miles and several turns from any road that actually had a name, let alone painted lines. I reported it to my manager, and he said he contacted police, but nothing ever came of it that I'm aware of. Either way, that was my first and hopefully last personal encounter with the self-proclaimed Manson family ranch.
Thank God she did get out of there. I'm surprised she stayed still all this time when the lady said, "You better get out of here." But all it took for her to say was, "Are you dumb? Deaf?" You need to leave because not every girl like you would leave this place. But I wouldn't even stop at a place that had Manson Family Ranch written on it or someone that was a fan of one of these other serial killers. I'd be like, no, these people are messed up. But I know that old man was mad that his plan did not work since that old lady told that pizza delivery girl to leave. That's why he was coming out with his cane swinging. But I'm just glad that she's okay, so let's get to story number 2.
When I was in my early 20s, I was very mentally unstable, lonely, and desperate for friends.
Right.
I've struggled with binge eating, and it was particularly bad at that time with a lot of delivery and late night fast food binges. One night that I ordered pizza, this man delivers it. Maybe in his mid to late 30s or early 40s, and I think I was 19 or 20 at the time. We don't have any particularly engaging conversation. It was a normal, friendly pizza delivery driver conversation. He may have complimented me on my piercings or hair at the time or a shirt. This was a decade ago, so I don't really remember. I do know there was nothing that indicated I wanted to be friends, and that this was simply a customer/driver interaction. I think it was a day or so later, and he adds me on Facebook. I want to emphasize that this was days later, meaning he took my information home or noted it somewhere. It took me a minute to figure out who he was, and realized he found me based off of my order information.
I'll be creeped out at this point because I know that girls that have piercings will probably blush that someone would point that out to them that they look cute, but it won't be cute if you got their information and found them on Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media platform. I'll be either blocking this person or calling the cops because that's someone you probably don't want to be friends with. Might be a little crazy in the head.
Being unstable, lonely, and desperate for friends, and also living life by, I make decisions based on whether or not it will make a good story. I accepted the friend request. He left some creepy, typical, overly sexual compliments on some Facebook photos, but we never met or talked or anything ever again, and I think I deleted him a few months later. I don't remember exactly, but I definitely realized that this was weird. Delivery driver that was almost twice my age at the time and decided, after a less than 10-minute interaction, to find me on Facebook days later. Let's never meet again, and I hope you didn't do this to anyone else. Or if you did, that they were smarter and in a better place than me to get your creep vibes and decline.
Yeah, I get it. You were in a phase where you were not talking to anybody hardly socially, and you just picked him. But thank God you deleted him, and he did not come back to your house and get revenge and go crazy like I hear in some of these other stories. But yeah, I hope you don't meet him again because you have every right to call the cops on him if he does something like this again. Yeah, that is totally crazy and weird that a pizza delivery driver that flirted with you would try to ask you for a friend request on Facebook.
I deliver pizza, and I'd been having a really busy night, nonstop back and forth, without any time to even pause and take a leak.
Right.
I'd been so busy that I wasn't really thinking about bathroom breaks. But we're also going through a bit of a heat wave in our area, so I've been drinking copious amounts of water. All of a sudden, as I was driving to this particular delivery, the urge to go hit me. Things went from 0 to 60 in an instant. Thankfully, I was close to the customer so could get this one over with quickly. Or so I thought. I pulled up to the house, and it was an area I'd delivered in before, so I could immediately see that something wasn't right. All the lights were off in the house, not even the glow of a television or anything.
Okay, first of all, I would say you should not ignore going to the bathroom. I know even though you're busy delivering pizzas and it's during the heat wave, you got to make sure you drain all your fluids properly. I know that sounds sickening to hear, but if you don't, you'll hurt your kidneys. And I doubt you're going to make it to the bathroom quick right now because if there's no lights in that house for the supposed customer to meet you, then I'm already getting trap vibes already.
It was extra apparent because the street light closest to the door happened to be out of order. And on top of it all, the block was dead quiet. This is a big university area, and obviously there aren't many student renters in July, but there had to be at least one person because someone ordered this pizza.
Right.
Maybe they just liked sitting in the dark or they were out back in the yard. Whatever. I just didn't want to get out of my car and knock on a quiet house in the middle of the night without first checking that I had the correct address and the customer was inside. It was scorching that night, even after sundown. My car's AC is a joke, and the piping hot pizzas don't help things much, so I have to try and open the car door as infrequently as possible to keep any cool air in. I called the number the customer provided, and the voice on the other end said, kind of brusquely and out of breath, "Yeah?" I just tried to keep it clear and concise. "Hey, it's your pizza out front, but there doesn't appear to be anybody home." And the customer replied, still gasping for air, "Yeah, I'm not home." I had to pee so badly by that point that I was much less patient than I'd otherwise be with a customer right out of the gate. Well, then we're going to have to terminate the order, because I've arrived in the stated delivery window and you were supposed to pay in cash. So, I don't know what to tell you. Plan ahead next time. I instantly regretted letting my bladder do the talking for me as the voice on the other end came through more clearly as a young, bubbly, and very distraught girl who couldn't have been older than 20 or 25. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was running down the street so I could barely hear you." She cried, "I just switched you out of my AirPods." "Is that better?" "Sorry, I completely lost track of time at work, but I knew you were coming. That's why I'm literally running home right now. Please don't leave. I'm starving and I don't have a car. Seriously, please don't leave. 5 minutes tops, okay? I know what it's like to be hungry and running late and have no car but not live near any restaurants." Plus, when I heard her voice, I began to remember more specifically having delivered to this place a couple times before, and she'd always been perfectly nice.
I mean, I'll be saying like the pizza delivery guy said, "You're not here to collect the pizza. I'm sorry, we're going to have to terminate this order." But then you'll feel bad if she says, "No, please, I'm very hungry and I just ran out for a little bit. I'll be on the way." But then, oh, this dude has a strong bladder. Because if she don't show up, I know he's going to have to wet his pants or go out and pee near the bushes.
Now I felt bad for snapping at her. I tried to walk it back, while simultaneously looking out my window for potential spots to pee. "No, no, my bad. I'm letting the heat get to me, and it's not your fault. No need to rush. See you when you get here." I hung up and, while surveilling the street, was starting to think I was really out of luck. All the other houses had people in them, and were close together, so there were no clumps of trees or out of the way patches of land or anything. Of course, I had just tossed my empty water bottle at the last delivery, because I'm an idiot. Finally, I decided it was escalating to the point of an emergency, and the safest bet was to use a bush in front of the woman's house. She wasn't home. The street light was out so no one would see me. The people who were home were inside. My car was parked across the street, and we're a small shop who don't wear uniforms, so if someone did spot me, they'd have no way to connect me to my employer. Animals pee outside all the time. Humans are animals. This is fine. I scurried over to the tallest bush in her front yard. She didn't really have much of a yard, more just a walkway lined with bushes and flowers that ran adjacent to her front door.
Yeah, if you see a tall bush, I mean, that's perfect. Just hide behind that, do your business, and get back to the car.
The biggest cluster of bushes, the only one where I could be sure there would be no visible splatter on the side of the house, was about 4 feet from her door. I looked both ways, unzipped, and let fly. After the initial millisecond of relief, I noticed the sound was way off, more like pissing on something solid than something leafy. I started panicking, thinking I'd aimed wrong. But once I start, I can't stop midstream, so I kept squinting into the darkness to see if maybe I was hitting a key rock or something and could just move a few inches over. Instead, all of a sudden, I heard a way more concerning noise. A deep voice exclaiming, "What the fuck?" Before I could turn around, assuming I'd been caught by a neighbor, a man came leaping out of the bushes. He blew by me, brushing my golden shower off him as did. He spit pretty emphatically on the ground, so I think I might have beamed him right in the face. I didn't see where he went after a few paces, but though this next part is kind of a blur, I do think I remember hearing a car screech out from a bit further away after a minute. I'd gotten some night vision by that point, so I was able to make out his height, build, and outfit, but only the most general details of each. I just stood there trying to figure out what had happened. The reality was so terrifying that my mind refused to accept it and impulsively searched for a reasonable explanation that could make everything okay.
I don't think it would be no reasonable explanation. The only thing is, that dude was hiding there, waiting for that woman. But he didn't expect the pizza delivery guy to pee on him. I think I heard of this story before from another scary storyteller channel. But that's just crazy. Just thank God that he didn't get so mad and pull out a weapon and get you for doing that to him.
I thought, could these bushes lead to some backyard area and just looked like they were against the house? Could they have been obscuring an open window?
No.
My inner voice was desperately screaming. That man was wearing a hoodie in 90-degree weather. That was a bad man. You were in a bad situation. But the very idea that I was within inches of a guy who would be hiding in bushes at all, let alone in front of a young woman's house at night, just wasn't something I was ready to grapple with yet. I was coping by not coping. My fight or flight response totally failed me at that point, because my dumb ass did the absolute last thing I should have done and approached the bushes to try and validate this. There must have been a good reason for a man in a hoodie to be behind these bushes in the middle of the night theory. I walked over to the side, turned on my phone flashlight, and tried to peer around the line of shrubbery. As scary as things may look in the dark, seeing them with a single beam of your flashlight can sometimes make it even worse. That's when I saw the bag. There was a tattered drawstring bag sitting behind the bushes, slightly splashed with pee. But I was in such a moronic daze from shock that I groped around for it thinking, see, this is it. This will explain why he was back here.
Okay, you found proof that that guy was back there, or why he was there to begin with, and why he was there to begin with. But I would have been calling the cops and let them investigate because you don't want to get your fingerprints on all that stuff. That dude was probably there to kidnap or delete her.
It explained it. Once I maneuvered it over and pulled it open, I saw a sharp knife, a roll of duct tape, and a bottle of pills. The delusions officially broke at that point, and all the adrenaline, endorphins, and self-preservation instincts that had been suppressed kicked in 10 times over. I became whatever the opposite of dazed is. More laser focused than I have ever been in my life, with one singular goal: get back to my car. I dropped the bag, booked it across the street, got in my car, and slammed the pedal to the floor before the door was even all the way closed. I went as far as I could as fast as I could until I hit a red signal. Then I pulled off to the side and realized I shouldn't be driving any more than necessary in the condition I was in. I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour drugstore and took a breath. I was finally calm and coherent enough to zip up and formulate a plan of action. My first lucid thought was, who do I call first? The police or the girl whose house that was? I thought about it for what couldn't have really been more than 10 seconds, but felt like an hour, and decided, okay, I am in my locked car with the engine running. If trouble starts, I can drive away. I know something's up. She might not. She needs to know not to keep walking in that direction. As I was dialing her number, it occurred to me, what if there was no girl? I thought I remembered delivering to that house before, but what if I was wrong? What if the girl on the phone was just a decoy to get me there to rob me, or worse? Every pizza guy on the planet has seen the Evil Genius documentary by now, so I thought. She called me all out of breath. She wasn't home. The whole thing was off. Can't risk it. I'll start with the cops.
I was just about to say, start with them first. Because you get them over there, find the bag, give them your statement, and then they'll talk to the girl directly. If she's there, that is. But yeah, you took off like that, she's probably going to call you when she gets back home, asking you where you're at. I need my pizza.
I called 911. The operator was very helpful in keeping me calm because I was a complete wreck by this point. He kept assuring me that someone would be there soon. I kept telling them they had to get there before the girl did, but I was trying to express three thoughts at once and really damaging my own credibility. It came out more as, "You've got to save this girl because he wasn't after me, I was just delivering a pizza." Unless they were after me, in which case there might not be a girl, but I talked to one on the phone, so then you should find that girl because they used her to lure me there. But if she's real, she doesn't know about the guy, who was also real, and there could be more guys if there's actually a girl, and
Okay, you need to stop blabbing your mouth off like that because, like you said, you might be damaging your credibility and they'll be like, whoa, 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 slow down. Just tell us where this incident occurred and we'll go check it out. Then you can tell them all the other details later. Golly, I know you're scared and everything, but you don't have to be running your mouth off with a lot of info like that at once because then they might think you're the one responsible for all this.
you know what? Even if there isn't a girl, there might actually be more guys. I only checked one part of the bushes, so I don't actually know. But we'll know which guy is the one I saw because I pissed all over him, you know. I didn't mean to. This was back when I thought the girl was real, but not home. But she might be real, so you really need to find her if she is because the guy was real. Finally, they basically just asked me to stop talking and stay on the line.
Yes, exactly.
But that was when I saw an incoming call from the customer. I couldn't answer it without disrupting my 911 call, so I just ignored it. But then she sent me this text like, "Hey, I'm here. Don't see you?" I told 911 she was there, and they said officers were only minutes away. But who knows how long that meant? Especially after I'd given such a scattered account of the events in my panic. I just felt overwhelmed with guilt. Because my rational mind said the odds of her being a decoy girl for some large scam targeting pizza guys were low, and the odds of her being the intended victim of a predator were high. So I put my 911 call on mute, where I can hear them, but they can't hear me, and turned back, heart absolutely pounding out of my chest. Then I took 911 off mute and told them I had returned to look for the girl. They weren't happy about that, but I saw her meandering past the parked cars in the street looking to see if one was mine, and I waved her down, flashing my brights. She bounced on over to the window of my car, happy-go-lucky. I figured that was a good sign that she wasn't in on whatever this was. I was just so scared to be back in the general area and to not know what had just happened or what was going to happen. I kept whispering, "Get in, get in." And she was like, "Get it? Huh? Oh, you want me to get the pizza from the back?" I didn't want to make the same mistake with her that I had made with 911, so instead of trying to tell the whole story, I stuck to the bare basic facts. There was a man in your bushes. I'm on the phone with the police. I don't know where he is right now. Please get in the car so we can lock the doors. I was barely able to get even those sentences out, and I was shaking like I'd had 10 cups of black coffee. I held up my phone with 911 on the call screen to verify it for her. I thought that was why she got in the car with no further explanation, but it turns out that wasn't entirely it. "You still there? Is she with you? Are you safe? Is anyone else there?" 911 kept checking in, not knowing who the third party I was talking to was. I reassured them, and we drove, more cautiously this time, to a location 911 instructed us to wait to speak with police after they cleared the area. I didn't actually have to do much after that. The police came pretty soon after. A police car met us. I gave a statement telling them everything I observed, and she went to go speak to more officers in more detail than they needed me for. It turns out the reason she got right into a strange pizza guy's car without probing any deeper into my story is because she knew who the man was right away from my description. She had an abusive ex boyfriend who was apparently psychotic enough that he immediately came to mind from hearing "there's a guy in your bushes." She later called us to thank me and insist on leaving a huge tip. I wasn't there when the call came in, so the kid who answered didn't know to refuse to accept the money. But the manager already promised the next time we see her, we can load her up with enough one free pie cards to last a lifetime. Easily the scariest thing that has ever happened to me, on the job or off. I don't get the chance to tell the story much, because I try to avoid sharing it with anyone who could possibly know the girl or know of the event, but I'm still not the same since. Even though I know he didn't even have anything to do with me directly, this truly shook me to my core.
Whew, those two are lucky, and I'm glad that the lady trusted the pizza delivery in his vehicle and go meet the cops, and she known who it was already. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more chilling tapes, reactions like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Core channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and that's a wrap. Have a nice day, y'all.